I'm gonna come with a European reference.
Sound not the sign. What they saying?
I'm gonna come with a European reference. All right. I'm gonna come with it's probably on the video. I'm gonna come with a European reference. You know why? Because this show you that even the white man know that this shit is bullshit.
Fourth most important for mine and the next presenter. Per netter. And netter is a key word here. That's correctly. I can go into a lot of detail with that, but we don't have time. So all of Champollion's translations are basically incorrect. All of Egyptology's translations are basically incorrect. So the word netter, they translate as god or goddess. Somebody asked earlier, what about all the gods and goddesses of Egypt? Well, the mere fact is we're looking at two different levels of understanding, which I'm going to discuss in great detail in this second book. That there was an exoteric teaching and an esoteric teaching. The exoteric maybe is talking about gods and goddesses, but the true meaning of netter is not god or goddess. And first one, again, who did this in modern times was R.A. Schwaller de Lubitsch. Who was the first one to look at this word and said, wait a minute, this word doesn't mean deity, like we understand. It means an aspect or principle of the divine. Part of the whole, not the whole. So netter is actually where the Greek word nature comes from. Netter, nature. So the house of nature, the house of energy. Pyramid, Greek word pyramidos, fire in the middle. Much closer to the true understanding. Had nothing to do with tomb. So of course at this point we always stop and say, in its original inception, in its original creation, no one was to be ever buried in a pyramid. Perkai is a tomb. This is not tombs. So this throws out 90% of Egyptology right here. They're talking about kings being buried in pyramids. Nonsense. And Christopher will greatly elaborate on this and show you unequivocally how this was a machine. Great Pyramid, not a temple. And show you unequivocally how this was a machine.
Good night, bitch. Good night. So not only do we got an African reference, we got a Caucasian reference. Even white people know them motherfucking meditation ain't been decided. An example. This is the beetle that they call Khepra in Egyptology or in Egyptian Kemetic science, whatever you want to call it at this point. Now, the beetle we know from studying. You motherfuckers watch Animal Planet. Every morning during sunrise, the beetle goes and takes all of the dung, which is just feces from another animal, and it rolls it up into a giant ball, and it drills a hole in it. It plants its larva into the beetle. When the eggs hatch, the larva has an immediate food source.
It's called Khepra, which we know as the scarab beetle. Everybody likes Egyptian iconography, has seen the scarab beetle, also known as the driller. Why is it called the driller? Well, the scarab beetle is an unusual little insect because it takes a ball of dung, animal waste, rolls it up, and then deposits its eggs in the dung. So when the young are born, they immediately have a food supply.
When the eggs hatch, the larva has an immediate food source. Now, out of all of the goddamn things they say the Khepra represents, one of the factual things is that the Khepra meant the sunrise in the morning. Because at 5:30, the sun starts to come up. This is the same time the beetle starts to push the dung, and it grows and grows and grows into a bigger ball. So our ancestors anthropomorphized that which was around them to conceptualize that which they experienced.
Also became a symbol, the first stage of the sun is the dawn, when the sun comes up. Because as a great teacher, R.A. Schwaller de Lubitsch, who, if you've heard of John Anthony West, is the greatest proponent of this man's teachings, he made the statement that the Egyptians, Cometians, used the known to evoke the unknown. And what they saw with this little beetle is pushing the ball of dung in front of itself daytime. They said, well, it was like bringing the sun disk at dawn, pushing the sun. So it became a symbol of dawn.
So this is why everything in Egypt has a yellowish binge or shade to it. And I know some of y'all want to be cute and say it's not really yellow, it's red. We ain't doing that right now. We going what people can see. Everything in Egypt, from the pyramids to the Sphinx to all buildings and creations in Egypt have a yellowish pigment to it.
But I want you to look at this color. Keep the color. This is the natural color of rose quartz granite. Okay, let's move.
Now, over 250 geologists have confirmed the age of the following structures. Now, when I tell you it's water damage, don't worry. I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you.
She has to be older than 10,000 years. And Shaka's not alone. When he gave a presentation at the American Society of Geologists in San Diego in 1995, I think it was, he had 250 geologists lined up after his presentation to verify, to stand with him.
Over 250 geologists have confirmed the age of the following structures. Now,
I'm going to show you. Now listen, this is a view of the goddamn Great Pyramid from the west side of it. This is a view of the goddamn Great Pyramid from the south side. Now mind you, a lot of motherfuckers are going to try to get cute and say, Pharaoh, that's not water damage, that's rain damage. Hear me out, family. Wind blows in Egypt from the south towards the west and the north. No, towards the east and the north. Now, why is this important? This side actually gets hit with sand. This side don't get hit with no sand. You know why this side looks better than this side? Because this side, when the sand hits the pyramid, it's been covering it up and shielding it from rainfall. This side never gets shielded from rainfall. Now, when you do the history on Egypt, and we do the research on Egypt, you know that Egypt gets a maximum of 4 inches of rain per year, which means it would take a minimum of 15,000 years of rainfall to commit this much damage to a pyramid. So it's been geologically confirmed by water damage. Not just because I'm going to show you the foundation too. Because you niggas going to say, Pharaoh, that might be rainfall. Well, how the fuck did the goddamn, what you would consider the basement of the pyramid, get water damage if it's not exposed to rainfall? That's because it was exposed to a river which dried up a minimum of 11,000 years ago.
And this we're working on. This is not as clear as the Sphinx, but this is the west side of the Great Pyramid. Here are some of the original casing stones still left. Now, this pyramid facing west is not subject to wind and sand, to the type of erosion that usually appears, because the wind in Egypt is known as the khamsin. It comes out of the south, and I've been there when it happens, and it can just scorch your eyes. That's why you usually have these little Arabic face masks to protect you from the sand and wind. You saw that in Lawrence of Arabia, whoever saw that movie. But this doesn't face the sand, the wind and sand. This faces the west. So the only type of erosion I speculate that this could be water. And if this is water erosion, again proves the pyramid is older than 10,000 years. This is not as strong as we have at the Sphinx. I want to see Robert Schoch and other geologists comment on this, whether they think this could possibly be water erosion, not sand. So it's something we'll look at. Thank you.
Now this is the Sphinx. They say Khafre built the Sphinx. Do y'all see these big ass goddamn cracks in this Sphinx? Do y'all see that? 4 inches of rain a year don't do that. Okay? 15,000 or 20,000 years worth of rain does that at that minimal amount. It barely fucking rained in Egypt. It's a fucking desert now. This is the back of the Sphinx. The goddamn back is worse than the goddamn side. Look at this shit. This shit caked in. So 4,000 years of water damage does not do that. 15,000 years do. And if you don't believe me, like I said, this has been confirmed by
Robert Schoch. Schoch, a great geologist, 17-page resume. Andrea actually leads tours to Egypt with Robert Schoch, one in March. Incredible man. I've met him. Wonderful person. He's convinced without a doubt that this is water erosion. Not only water erosion, but caused by rainfall. Rain beating down for thousands of years. Next, we'll go into more closer detail of that. Thousands of years, water, this he says is textbook example of water erosion. Not wind and sand, as Zahi Was and Mark Lehner will tell you. Cannot have been done in the last 4,500 years. It hasn't rained significantly in this area of the world. Like I said, it rained one day. That's probably all it's going to rain all year. 4 inches of rain a year at Giza. Hasn't rained significantly in 8,000 to 10,000 years here. So it has to be the Sphinx is older than that.
250 geologists. These geologists ain't a part of no secret society. They're not part of no Egyptology society. They're not part of no corrupt shit. They just some white motherfuckers who got money and technological equipment, and they went over there and they told the truth.
And how I came to this was through my long research into the field of academic Egyptology and realizing that didn't sit the bill, the questions weren't answered by academic Egyptologists. I went into the metaphysical aspect of it. I got involved with the Rosicrucian Order, AMOC, in San Jose, California, where I was a staff research scientist for 2 years. Known as Tutmo's the third title. He's very important because I have a major chapter in Rosicrucianism. Any of you is interested in the true history of the Rosicrucian Order, we deal with it in my book. Goes back to ancient Egypt. This man, by the Rosicrucians themselves today, is considered the traditional founder of the Rosicrucian Order, going back to 1450 BC. This is the man who was the modern imperator of the Rosicrucian Order, Dr. Harvey Spencer Lewis, who founded the order in 1915 in New York City. I write in detail about him. He fulfilled a prophecy that was told to him in 1999 when he was initiated in France, where it said it would be the reincarnated soul of Amenhotep IV, Akhenaten, who would reestablish the Rosicrucian Order in the land where the eagle spreads its wings.
So you niggas have been bamboozled. Red Pyramid, lower chamber, shows evidence of water erosion. 1997. Photo by author Stephen Miller. How the fuck is the basement of the pyramid got water erosion? Rain can't even get down here. But you know what was there that could have done it? That dried up? A river called the Ernil River that dried up 11,000 years ago.
Again, in my book is more detail. The ancient civilization I'm talking about had an ancient river, which we call the Ernil, which was named by a German researcher named Blankenhorn in the early 20th century.
So you niggas have been bamboozled. Because of the difference between Egyptology and Kemetology. I was going to wait to tell y'all. Now I'm going to tell y'all now.
So, first thing we say is we don't teach Egyptology. Chris introduces me as an Egyptologist. Well, I'm not. I'm a chematologist. It's a whole new discipline.
You niggas have been swindled. You niggas have been tricked. And now you in a community tricking everybody else. Shame on your goddamn ass. But you know what? Tricking niggas a tricky nigga will do. Tricking niggas a tricky nigga will do. Here we go. Kim actually meant black land. But why did it mean black land? Because we know, according to Egypt as we know it, only the Nile River gave us an inhabitable strip of land to which we planted our crops and lived on.
So this civilization was pre-desert. So it was based on this ancient river, the Nile, the Ernil, which is Western Desert. And the word means the black land. It's the alluvial, dark, rich soil that the river deposits when she floods. And that was the basis of the civilization. You're going to see a slide I'm going to show you of Egypt. And people are amazed that all this civilization was a thin strip of green land around the river. And the rest was desert. That's dynastic times. But even so, the ancient people called it the black land, meaning the rich soil deposited by the river where they grew their crops, their civilization.
So you niggas have been bamboozled. But if you go back about 11,000 to 65,000 years to when the Nile River was in its full capacity, it was called the Ernil River.
Again, in my book is more detail. The ancient civilization I'm talking about had an ancient river, which we call the Ernil, which was named by a German researcher named Blankenhorn in the early 20th century.
And actually, the entire Sahara Desert actually used to be the Ernil River. But if you go back about 11,000 to 65,000 years to when the Nile River was in its full capacity,
it was called the Ernil River.
Ernil, which was named by a German researcher named Blankenhorn in the early 20th century.
So you niggas have been bamboozled. So the Garden of Eden in the Bible, when in the Bible they say God took the Garden of Eden and turned it into a desert to hide it from the people, Eden is the word need scrambled up. The Garden of Eden was need. African people lived in Eden, aka without need, because they literally lived on land and the ocean at the same motherfucking time.
Ernil, which was named by a German researcher named Blankenhorn in the early 20th century.
The goddamn river ran into the damn Mediterranean Sea, and they didn't need for shit. And they built their pyramids out of granite, crystal, and motherfucking Amethyst, and granite, Amethyst, crystal, and they used the water from the Ernil River to give it an electrical conduction, to which the air inside the chambers ionized it, and it amplified the goddamn capstone, and it brought electricity to the whole motherfucking civilization.
Of the land of Osiris, we talked about Kemet. Hakim taught me that there was a further definition, a further designation within Kemet that had a series of sites from Dashur in the south to Abu Wash in the north, which includes the famous sites of Giza and Saqqara. All these sites were known for having pyramids, pernetters, and temples, purbas, that are ancient, over 10,000 years, all connected on a grid line. Again, Christopher will talk about the energy of the Great Pyramid when he's up. All these pyramids work together in harmonic ways to form an ancient grid.
Pyramid. So with that being said, you niggas don't know what the fuck you talking about. And you saying people call even the word Kim in Arabic, they call it al-him.
And actually, that's a later derivation. The real term was Chem. And it's even in existence today because the Egyptians, one of their terms, the Arabic term for Egypt is al-Khem. And does that name sound familiar?
That being said, Egyptology is made up by Europeans to hide the true origins of African history and what is known today as Egypt. The Ayuwani tribe in Giza have never been displaced from their land, okay? And have confirmed the findings of Kemetology by their holding of 65,000 years worth of history through oral tradition. So, bitch, I'm not running over there to get no goddamn first-hand account of Kemet. I'm not running over there to get no first account information of Kemet.
In 92, I went to Egypt for the first time, and I met the man who is my teacher, and his name is Abdel Hakim Awayan. Everybody knows him as Hakim. He's a well-known tour guide. He is retired now, but he has over 50 years experience in the field as a tour guide. Most people have been to Egypt and say, oh, I know Hakim. He's a great tour guide. Well, in the early 1990s, he also revealed himself as an indigenous wisdom keeper, part of an oral tradition. Now, people who know Native American traditions, who studied the Native American tradition, know that the oral tradition, and in part in Asia, is very much a part of these cultures. Well, it's also part of Africa, but no one has ever considered, certainly not Egyptologists, that there's an oral tradition. And Hakim represents that. His tribe, the Awayani tribe, which is called the Ai tribe, everybody's wearing an eye of horse, an eye of Ra, represents this tribe. They not only kept the history of their own tribe, they kept the history of all tribes. So what we present to you is over 65,000 years of oral tradition, and stating that there was a previous civilization before what is known as dynastic Egypt, before what is known as Egypt to Egyptologists, that existed and was very highly advanced, built the pyramids, carved the sphinx.
So you niggas have been bamboozled. According to Kemetic history, each king had 5 names. So why would they only write one name on the cartouche? Why wouldn't they write all 5 names? Now, if you look up the etymology of the word cartouche, it comes back to an Italian word, which means grocery bags. Egyptians didn't have grocery bags, stupid bitch. So why would they write their name on a grocery bag? But you niggas don't do no research. You just run your fucking mouth and slander all day. But don't worry, because I'm here to whoopsie your ass right up out of here. Don't worry. Pseudo. Let's go to pseudo, bitch.
Well, this is on the roof. Now, this is called a cartouche. You hear Egyptologists always talk about cartouche, French word. It means bag of holding or grocery bag. Well, actually, it's a knot of papyrus. And Egyptologists will tell you that a king's name was inscribed. And that's another one that needs to be flushed down the toilet. Because these people would never have put their common names up on the walls for anybody to see. These were titles.
So you niggas have been bamboozled.